All right, all kinds of stuff going on in the sports world. Lamar Jackson signs gets the non-exclusive tag here. We'll talk to Jack Settleman about that. We got Clay recapping ETHDenver. We got Andy guiding us through the NBA playoff best ball streets, and who knows, even the mayor himself, Peter Jennings, might swing by in a bit. It is the club going up on a Tuesday. So is Lamar gone? Is he as good as gone, Jack?
He gone. Oh, sorry. Let me get my mic in here. No, I don't think he's necessarily gone, but I do think, as I feel like we've said on the show many a times, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So we're playing a really stupid game. Now, we could win a really great prize, but there's also a chance that for the first time, I would imagine ever in the history of any sport, that you lose a not a franchise player, an MVP. Like I doubt that there's ever been an MVP player in any sport that did not sign with that team if it happened in his initial few years. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out for the Ravens. I mean, if they're calling his bluff, the Falcons are out, like everyone's out, so they won that. But at what cost? Like, you're fracturing this relationship with him. You're going to make fun of him. Like, how do you finagle it? My new gut feeling, because I don't know where he ends up, is that he just doesn't want to be in Baltimore. Like, that he would be excited to be somewhere else. For what reason? You know, it could be the fact that they traded away his best friend. They didn't give him, you know, an offensive coach to improve his passing game. You know, there's a million things that the Ravens did and didn't do. Like, they give him a great team. They built a system for him to get him going and to develop him early on. So it comes from both sides, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes. We'll see what they end up with.
It does seem like it is the perfect storm of events, right? Like Deshaun Watson resetting the quarterback market, like massively hurt the Ravens in this. Like, if that doesn't happen, I bet he has an extension right now with the Ravens and they're good to go probably.
My feeling is like he just doesn't want to be a Raven. Like that is really my feeling at this point, because it's just clear I don't buy the agent thing, because like the Ravens signed Roquan Smith, who doesn't have an agent, within 48 hours of sitting down with him. People negotiate all the time without agents. The fact that it almost feels like he's just asking for a ridiculous contract to like show the Ravens he doesn't want to be there. No one knows. That's the beauty of this whole thing that I've been loving to watch, is like all the people who are like, oh, Lamar wants this, he wants that. Lamar doesn't have an agent, which means you're not getting any information because he's not talking to anyone. So we'll see how it plays out. I think the true disaster for Ravens fans today that they don't even realize is that this shit is going to just drag on forever. Like, this could go up to week 1 of next season, and then he could sit out if he truly wanted to. So like that's really, Ravens fans thought this was like the end, like we were going to get a decision. All it's going to do is create more rumors of the next 2 weeks. So yeah, we'll see.
But the one thing to your point about like if he just doesn't want to be back with the Ravens, because the way the non-exclusive franchise tag work, it's not like he can go and lower his offer with another team and be like, oh, I'll take less or I won't need as much guaranteed money, because then the Ravens will be like, oh, we'll match that. So like someone is going to have to pay up and give him this fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah, and I'm shocked that the Jets aren't in the running. Like, a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in a decade, that's so desperate for a quarterback, that like it just feels Jets-like to like take the chance. Like, why not be the guy? Because also, if you take the chance and it works, like let's just say they pay him all the guaranteed money, like it's also a counter to like Herbert and Burrow. Like, you're going to, you know, if you think it's not the right move financially, what's a few more years for the Jets? Like, Aaron Rodgers, is he really winning them a Super Bowl, or is he just like the next best thing? Atlanta, like, how could you not? You need rich owners. That's really what you need.
Where do you think he goes, Andy?
I honestly have no clue. How does it work with the 2 first-round draft picks? Is it your next 2? Is it just whatever your next 2 are? So can I trade away my next 5 first-round draft picks?
You could. You could. Which would make the Ravens more inclined to match the offer, right?
Mhm.
Like that's the fun part is like Pete was saying, you got to almost position an offer that the Ravens either want to accept. Like if the Bears, right, they might make a lower offer, but you're going to get the number 1 pick. So in that case, you're like, all right, we won't match him. So there's
Sure,
a lot
we'll
of
take the number 1 pick.
Exactly. There's a lot of moving parts. And also, you could also negotiate a new trade. Like the Ravens could just straight up trade him to the Bears for their first and second this year, and they could keep the 1 next year. So yeah, anything. That's what I mean is like this stuff is so out in the open, but it's been a good 38 minutes for the Ravens because the Giants are out. The Falcons are allegedly out. So there's only so many suitors at this time. And honestly, once the draft passes, you would imagine like the Bears and Houston are out because you don't want their picks if you don't know where they're going to be. I do think Miami is a realistic option, which means we got another month and a half of just, all this bullshit.
It's crazy.
You gotta feel like the Jets.
Feel insane.
Yeah, you gotta feel like the Jets feel good about Rodgers at this point if they're gonna kind of dip out a little bit on the Lamar race, and it seems like there's a lot of momentum on the reports of that being like a marriage going forward. So yeah, it is fascinating, man. I don't know what would it take for the Dolphins to get him, because that would be a fun spot, like no doubt.
So the Dolphins, they don't have it this year. So, but once the draft ends, they can then make an offer. And Steven, like if there is so I know I tweeted out, and like it sounds like a joke, but like I've actually been told that Lamar wants to be in Miami, but like he's not saying like I want to play for the Dolphins. Now, obviously, to be in Miami, you have to play for the Dolphins. It's just you have to distinguish between like
Tampa's close enough. They lost a quarterback.
He's not dying to play for the Dolphins, but he is dying to like go play at home. And the Dolphins just happen to be that team. So post-draft, maybe. But like, can the Ravens really let this go post-draft? Take the risk that Miami could then make the offer, because then the Ravens were literally starting Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley at that point. And, you just the embarrassment of riches, right, are going to cost the Ravens. All right, more fun question. Where could Lamar go or stay? What's the ideal spot for fantasy that Andy will just be firing off on weekly Sunday drafts for him?
That's a good question. I guess I really have no idea about the quarterback market. I just like to draft rookie drafts, not even knowing who the players are at this point in the season. I try to stay away from all that.
True DJ.
I feel like the Falcons would be really fun. I feel like there's a weird, basically, Titans angle that would be really fun. I was just
gonna float the Titans,
where you say like, "Fuck Ryan Tannehill." You know what? Malik Willis is trash. Let's not trade Derrick Henry and have this like really weird offense with Treylon Burks and Derrick Henry. I feel like
you just never throw.
Really fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think
in the backfield too. Triple.
I don't think that I think you would just get so much volume out of Lamar in that situation because they have no one besides those guys. I think the non-obvious answer that's really the obvious answer is like with Todd Monken, like staying in Baltimore is probably the best. Like the run game's obviously going to be there. Now you can throw even more. And you would have to, if they keep Lamar, you would think that they're actually going to put someone around him at the wide receiver spot.
You just have so many threats on that offense.
You do. I think Pete would say between Dobbins and Bateman and Andrews healthy, if you add one more, it becomes a much more serious offense. But we'll see.
All right, here's my last.
I'm ready to be a free agent. If he goes to Miami, I'll take this jersey off in a second. I'm ready to be done with the Ravens fucking around.
Not committed to the brand.
So you're one of those
the Patriots say we should have drafted him when we passed on him to take fucking Sony Michel or whoever it was that they took.
Great pick.
That'd be a kind of fun one.
No. I think I forget who put it out. Maybe someone from the Ringer that I follow put out like the teams that will / should, the teams that won't but that should, and the Patriots are on that list. Like obviously Bailey Zappi isn't the answer.
Wait, so Jack, do you consider yourself more of a Lamar fan than you do a Ravens fan?
No, until until recently.
It's a content play. Let's be honest.
It's
Jack
really
created
interesting.
a jersey for the Baby Goat brand.
I have a group chat with my Ravens friend. I mean, I grew up in Baltimore. I've been going to games. They started the year I was born. I went to like every home game growing up. So it's the toughest situation imaginable, which is not being a Ravens fan. It's just like, it almost would be unbelievable. But on the other side, I was explaining to them, I don't live in Baltimore anymore. My parents don't live there anymore. I'll go to one Ravens game a year, maybe. Like, we don't have our season tickets anymore. And the Ravens have been good my entire lifetime. So now, like, what if we enter a 5-year rebuild process? This new generation of fans, like, I don't have to stick through that shit. Like, I can jump to a new fucking team. This is such like an old timers way of thinking that I have to be a fan of this organization.
Says the guy wearing a Ravens jersey talking about.
No, I'm wearing a Lamar Jackson jersey. I'm wearing a Lamar Jackson. So, but in all seriousness, it's like the reality of it is, the reason that you were just like a fan of one team growing up is because it's where you lived. It's where your dad or mom lived, and it's where all your friends were. Now everything's decentralized. I can watch any team, any Sunday. I can follow every player that I want, right, on Instagram, and I can care about those players. Finding like communities of fans is very easy, right? Like, I could find all the Jets fans pretty easily. I mean, I would just walk out my front door. It's how I became such a big Knicks fan. Like, I moved to New York. I got season tickets. I start going to games. Then I have Knicks friends. Then the Knicks are the best team in the history of basketball. And now it's like, you're ingrained in it. So it's much tougher to imagine as a Ravens fan. But think about where you go to college. Like, no one's a fan of where they go. I mean, some people are. But like, you go to college somewhere, you become a fan for all those reasons. I'm just saying I'm not exclusively tagged as well at the moment. Let's just
you just got engaged, Jack. You are exclusively tagged.
Hey,
congratulations, by the way, Jack.
Thank you. I wanted to get like all of you having, life partners and children and houses. And we have a couch, and now I'm engaged. So, there we go.
Yeah,
dude, couches, man.
I thought it was honestly just I thought it was going to be a forever content bit, and you and Hallie were never going to get engaged. And I was like, holy shit, she actually was on the chase, and you ended it for her.
Yeah. So the day of, on Thursday, it was like our 6-year anniversary of dating, right? So every year we just like take a nod and celebrate that. And so she posted on Instagram, in her comment section, because of this long-winded content play, was like, oh, where's the ring? Where's the ring? So that day she freaked the fuck out on me. Like, this is so embarrassing. Like, it's funny to you, but it's not funny to me. And I'm just sitting there like, you got like 6 hours. Like, just keep it together.
Jack, I have such a similar story. And then I'll actually shut up so Jennings can say hi. But so I'm in Mexico for this wedding, and we're like at the wedding. It's like the last night of it, and I'm talking to all my friends. Allie like asked me to go get her my jacket because she was cold, and we were like at a campfire outside. And I'm like, all right, sure, I'll go get it. And then while I'm doing that, I'm like talking to all my friends, trying to find someone to take photographs of me proposing, because it was like the only 30 minutes I've been away from her the entire time I'm there. And then eventually she comes up like 30 minutes later and is so mad that I just like abandoned her for half an hour. And I'm just like, you can be mad at me right now. I have no way that I can possibly explain to you what I was doing that doesn't just tell you what's going on. So I'm just going to eat the shit, and I'll deal with it. And tomorrow you'll be
So on top of that, my brother flew down to Florida to come with my parents, because we're doing it in Aruba. Hallie's best friend in the entire world happens to be on that flight. So we're like panicked in the moment, because she texts Hallie immediately. And then we had to lie that Casey didn't tell me he was flying down. She gets mad at him for thinking I'm a bad boss that didn't know where his employee was going, and that Casey's the worst worker. So like for a week, she's just ripping through everyone. And then obviously it all made sense in the end. But lying for an extended period of time is tough. I'm not a huge fan of it.
It sounds like you're a game. It wasn't like a celebratory thing. It was just relief. Like we literally just have to get this over with for all the other shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
CSU Ram 88. Welcome back to the airwaves, fresh off of a viral, controversial tweet. Welcome back to the club, Pete.
The viral tweet that is politics. If you want to get a viral tweet, you just tweet something about politics, I guess.
Wait, what was your viral tweet? I missed this.
I've tweeted about this in the past and I got in trouble for it. It's a passion point for me. Basically, I'm not a big fan of trans athletes competing in like powerlifting and things of that nature against women. So
I actually discovered it on my For You tab on Twitter, which I'm rarely on. That's how you know there's more engagement. I felt like the response was relatively reasonable and sided with you. Obviously, on Twitter, you're going to get a lot. And I didn't get a chance to watch the video that someone tagged below that you commented back at. That seems like, out of all Twitter fights, it almost felt like more level-headed than the majority. So I'll give you that.
Yeah, actually, in the past, these would be pretty bad. I probably got 50 to 100 direct messages, like texts or messages on Twitter or telegrams or messages saying like, hey, thanks for tweeting about that. Like, it's important we have these conversations. I think people are getting pretty sick of like cancel culture and some of that stuff. And obviously there's merit for it sometimes. And I just want to have a conversation. And I legitimately am open to changing my mind. And after reading more content and seeing some things, like my perspective changed a little bit, but I
thought for sure you were going to delete it. I thought that like old Pete used to fire those tweets. No, old Pete would delete that within an hour.
Tweet and delete.
Yeah.
I feel like now I always laugh at the NFL guy, like Bateman the other day, who like tweets something like everyone in the media didn't cover it. Like, buddy, like what's the point of deleting this at this point? I'm with you. I agree with you. And I think most people are too. And it's just if it's for conversation purposes. Now, the quote tweets are some of the worst minds in fantasy sports. That's normally not the greatest endorsement, but I think for the most part, we have your support.
So what else have you been up to, Pete? You got the second kiddo on the way here very soon, right?
Yeah, any day. Ashley's 39 weeks pregnant. So, yeah.
I was trying to convince Pete to come to Nashville. Yeah.
And I wish I would have been able to see you. And I actually, for ETHDenver, I just kind of stuck in my neck of the woods. I did see D's, which was a lot of fun. I went up to meet this like famous glass blower, and dude, I cannot hang with D's. That night, Clay, I was up in Evergreen till like almost midnight.
I know, it's so great. Your text, I was like, oh yeah, you're hanging out with D's. I was like, oh yeah, he was not moving from wherever he was in that moment in time. There was no way you're going downtown after a nice D's set.
I was I had to chill for like 3 hours before driving to make sure I was like good to go. But it was a lot of fun, and just been working, same kind of grind. It's been a good sports season. Excited for the baby, and just building shit, man. It's fun.
Do we know boy girl name?
Boy, yeah. Boy,
right.
We've had this name for over a decade, and now it's like one of the most popular names, which is unfortunate. But Oliver David Jennings, David for my dad is the middle name, and there's a good chance we call him Ollie because Oliver's gotten like super, super popular. But we've literally had our boy and girl name picked out for a long time, and that's really Ashley, who's had like a list of like 100 boy names, 100 girl names. And I'm like, all right, I can live with these two. If we would have had another girl, it could have been trouble. But super stoked.
Ollie's a great name. Congratulations. Also, just circling back, I feel like if there were a Mad Lib for D's, like going up to a famous glass blower would be something that Mad Lib would spit out. That just seems so perfectly D's. So I'm glad you guys had that adventure.
Yeah, it was great. We got to hang quite a bit. We got to see my neck of the woods and wing out with a mutual friend Jeebs a decent bit. So bummed we didn't get together with Clay, but it was fun. Clay, what did you think of ETHDenver?
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway was I was low-key kind of impressed in a lot of ways from an attendance standpoint. Like there was like 25,000 people there. Did not feel like bear market vibes. It's just a cool event too from some of the other stuff I've been at in the space or other conferences. It's so kind of like dev, builder heavy focus that it's just a cool vibe. It's just like a lot of people like walking around checking out like each other's stuff, like the kind of industry scape, which I think is cool. Consumer ones are great as well, but it's just it's a different vibe when you're kind of talking with a lot more people who are like easily understand it, even if they don't have any familiarity with you. And for us too, is cool because there was not a whole lot of, quote unquote, like NFT projects there, even like the convention space. And so it was fun for us to kind of show up, and people who like either minted a night back in late 2021 had maybe like been kind of tapped out of Discord or just the space, kind of used the space for a while, whether that's because of their own appetite or just being kind of heads down. It was really cool to feel like people were like very, excited and really understood and were impressed, like where we had been, where we've landed, I guess 15, 16 months later. And there's cool stuff too. I mean, it's cool to see brands like, Deloitte, their blockchain arm was there with a booth. You obviously have the big players like Polygon, Aave, are all around the convention center as well. And then a ton of like smaller, brands and companies that are building just some really cool things. Another takeaway was just like, there's a lot of, I saw somebody tweet this too. There's just a lot of like real world, utility in terms of like problem solving things that the Web3 space can help out with, and the benefits of like Web3 blockchain technology, like removing pain points from Web2 life. There's just some really cool companies doing stuff, and we're going to see that, later this year, and I think in a pretty meaningful way going forward. So I'm bullish on ETHDenver. I'm like super stoked we were out there. We had a great time. We had a great watch party for the UFC fights too at Tom's Watch Bar downtown, and I got to hang out a lot with our guy Lou as well. So I'm going to shout out Lou. Spent a lot of time hanging out in Denver, which was a blast.
Yeah, and Lou is in the chat. Was Shotgun Willie's part of ETHDenver? Was that one of the event locations?
It was actually the Bored Ape Yacht Club party.
Yeah. I was also laughing because I saw Levitan had gone to the Nuggets Grizzlies game, which I assume was that same night that Ja then went to Shotgun Willie's. Yeah. And it is weird that Levitan's vlog does cut off right before they presumably hit up Shotgun Willie's with Ja Morant. So, just connect the dots there. Any takes on the Ja stuff? I mean, not the first time we've seen an NBA player kind of have a public meltdown here, but this has been pretty epic.
Yeah, I have a lot of takes on the Ja stuff. I've actually heard before this from some people in the NBA that Ja had a big alcohol problem, and this was like 6 months ago. And I'd been hearing some rumors even last year with Ja, and it's really sad. I think obviously Jalen Rose had put it really well that he is the leader, and it's not just about the people around him. It's Ja who needs to take the right steps. But I think his lifestyle was pretty horrendous. And obviously there's a lot of smoke before a lot of these stories, and now there seems to be more validity to these stories, especially the Pacer situation. And probably my biggest takeaway, and I think one of the most actionable things that needs to happen, is Ja's dad needs to stop sitting courtside and drinking. I think alcohol is a big part of this, and obviously, the weapons is the really scary part, but the drinking really needs to be addressed as well. And hopefully this was like a good thing that happened. I mean, obviously it's short-term terrible. It's obviously not good for the Grizzlies. It's not good for Ja's brand in the short term, but hopefully this is like a big moment in time where he can get his life on the right trajectory. And it's crazy. Like, he made it. He's not like from the hood necessarily. He's not, there's a lot of funny tweets out there, even in this bad situation. But like, you don't go from being like a mega superstar with generational wealth and then try to go to the hood. Like, that part is just absolutely crazy to me. So I don't know why he was trying to do all this for street cred, but I do believe alcohol is like the foundation for a lot of these problems.
Yeah, there's a pretty viral video of him chugging Casamigos on the plane. And at All-Star, I know he was out fairly late. My only comment is it took a weird path, but somehow, some way, RJ Barrett is the most available best player from that draft class. So I'm glad we finally got there. It was always RJ as the 101 in that draft. And, you can watch the Knicks go for win number 10 in a row tonight.
Always find a way to make a national news story about you, Jack. It's really impressive.
About the Knicks. About the Knicks.
Yeah, Pete. How's the collective handling this as it pertains to your co-owned Ja mom?
I thought about that too. I didn't want to, make a selfish comment right off the bat. How brutal! Like, we nailed Ja. That's at the first Top Shot moment we did. Like from a trajectory standpoint, I feel like we got everything right there, and somehow that moment is in the tank. Especially now. I mean, Should have tried to tax loss arbit that guy last year.
Well, we also have learned that the Top Shot market has zero correlation with on the court or off the court performance. So it's.
I mean, Nikola Jokic, that cosmic. I mean, he's about to win his 3rd MVP in a row after our boy Levy said he's never going to win an MVP. So.
Yes.
That's why he doesn't show up.
That's why he doesn't show up anymore.
It's tough.
I
that
just wanted to
moment's in
say
trouble
one last Ja comment outside of Top Shot, which is Lunchable's comment. He said, "If I was 23, you gave me 40 million, I'd beat that by 24." I actually think it's important to recognize, like, yeah, he needs to be more mature and grow up faster, but like, it's almost shocking that this is the first like young 20s kid who got 200 million who did spiral. Like, and everyone is looking to help him and potentially save him if he needs saving. I think that's actually encouraging that this seems to be at least publicly like one in, this used to be maybe more the norm, these guys going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Speaking of Top Shot moments, Andy, you had a big sale. You did it on Floaty for NBL.
Yeah, shout out.
Well, right? Yeah. What did you send off?
It was the big one, but the LeBron #1. It felt like it was time. I bought a couch with the money, which was lovely. That's a lot more utility than that moment ever brought me. It was a very nice tax loss harvest. I was sad to see it go. I'd wanted to hold it for a lot longer than I did, but I think, not super shockingly, my confidence in Top Shot has really waned over the last year or so. And just kind of felt like I was bag holding it at this point.
When you were in your apartment getting interviewed by the Wall Street Journal about these moments, if they told you, oh, by the way, in 2 years, you will floor this for a restoration hardware couch, like, would you have your mind blown, or would you be like, no, that sounds about right?
I mean, it probably would have been a helpful dose of reality at that point in time. Would have been greatly appreciated.
I was shocked to see you sell that one. I think it's probably the most high value moment in the collection, but I think because we obviously think about our very similar moment, and like that one to me feel like I would probably sell everything besides that one in the off chance, because the multiple on those ones felt higher. So I was intrigued to see what this fucking couch is going to look like. It better be comfortable.
Oh, it's going to be fucking huge. I mean, that was definitely part of it. It was like basically one of the last moments that I sold. And I think like for me, a big part of it was really just like, it was less about the individual moment or anything like that, and more so just like, if I'm being really honest with myself, there are a lot of other ways I'd rather spend 23 grand than have that moment. Even like, I just think there's a lot of better ways that I could invest 23 grand to make money over the next few years based on the trajectory that Top Shot's had. And I think like a lot of that has to do with just the way that they've continued to seemingly mishandle almost everything they do to a level that's pretty incredible. And so, sorry to anyone who still works at Dapper that is watching this, but I haven't really been impressed by very much. And even Mike is like publicly talking negatively about what they're doing on Twitter,
that's when you know.
Like, all right,
that's when you know.
It's time to sell.
So have you drained your whole account?
Levy, yeah, both.
Yeah, NBA.
I haven't.
So, yeah.
Really? You don't have anything left?
I have.
I mean, besides the shit that you're too lazy to. Yeah.
But some of the stuff that I bought, like several hundreds of, like still slowly selling, just because like I don't want to absolutely slaughter the market.
Yeah.
When NBA Top Shot on Blur, like we're gonna need something like crazy like that, right? Like, can they start supporting Flow, and like, can we get some farming for Top Shot?
Well, Dapper took away ACH yesterday, so they're taking away all the ways to get money out.
That was a full circle moment where I was like, we were fully back. You can't withdraw from Dapper anymore. We're back in the era, baby.
I missed that news.
That's a bull signal. And shout out to Floaty. That was a joke. We want liquidity on Floaty. So shout out to Mike and Floaty.
Well, so last week we were talking about like Feldman and some of the departures and layoffs with All Day, and then I believe it was later that night or the next day we had the Roham article come out. I think you could debate clearly like a hit piece. Obviously also probably some truths. And there, Pete, I'm curious for you, as an investor, someone who, probably talks with CEOs like Roham, did you find that article to be fair game? Did you think it was unfair? Like, what was your takeaway from that piece?
Jeremy Levine and I were texting about it. I think we both had the initial same reaction just on the piece itself and kind of what was talked about in the piece. It's like the least surprising thing ever. I think it's a combination of the things you said. Obviously, there's a hit. I think was created and crafted in a certain way to make Roham look as bad as possible. There probably are some truths to it, and there's definitely things I think were fabricated. Obviously, he came out with some comments himself. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, I definitely have been guilty of making bad decisions during euphoria. And, think about if you're Roham during that time, like you're riding this wave, you've done all this work in the space, and now, your baby's become this huge national, even international success, and all this money's flowing around, and you're hanging out with big celebrities and other A-list, business people and whatnot. It's easy to get caught up in that lifestyle. And I remember seeing him at the finals sitting courtside. Like, it's not that surprising. And it also isn't like that bad in certain ways. Like, obviously you shouldn't be, frivolously spending, the company budget, but like, yeah, when they were riding high, like some of that stuff probably was good for Dapper, and being seen by other investors probably had some value. So listen, I think they've made a lot of mistakes. I think Roham would do certain things differently. But it's not that surprising. And yeah, he probably made some mistakes, but probably got way too much criticism in that article.
I would agree with a lot of that.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just gonna say, like, to me, like the article is just like, that's weird. It sucks. Like, it sucks that people don't like working there, but doesn't really influence like whether or not people like Roham is pretty irrelevant to whether or not I want to own Top Shot moments. It's more like, how do I actually think that they will steer the ship of like the platform? Is definitely more so. I think people cared way too much about like, oh, he had a yacht and employees felt bad.
Well, I also think too, just in general, people like to connect dots with like narratives that are consistent with what they already think. And so the narrative and the truth has been Top Shot has been in a massive downward spiral, and that pours gasoline and is logically consistent with that narrative. If Top Shot was absolutely crushing and that article come out, it would have been like celebrated. It would be like the same way people worship Andrew Tate, for doing all of his shit and flashiness. It's like, yeah, that's the badass, like whatever. But it's like when people have invested in it and the optics and the, everything around Top Shot is in the shitter, then it's like, oh yeah, let's all pile on as well.
I mean, he's like, it's probably how they raised every dollar, is the fact that he's going to these places. And could he have been more frugal doing it? Maybe, but like, you're the CEO of a $7 billion company. Like, Zuckerberg isn't staying at the hotel, like the Motel 6, right? So like, I agree. Like, you're NBA's biggest partner, and yeah, you should sit courtside at the NBA finals. That is a marketing budget in its own right. So like you said, it's the fact that it's going the other direction. And if the article had focused on some of the stuff that I think it should have, which is, why is all your top talent either being fired or leaving? Now that's where I'm on Andy's page of like, maybe he's the problem, but it's not he doesn't have a spending problem, right? All those things in the moment actually made a lot of sense for how they did it. And we celebrated it. Like you said, like people were excited when Diplo was going on his boat. It meant that
that was the moment that changed everything.
Yeah,
that was a moment that changed everything.
Well, that's also how the clickbait sausage gets made, right? People I'm going to click on an article about CEO wild excess spending, not one that says Roham's complicated managing style makes it tough for employees.
Right.
Like no one's clicking that article, even though there actually be more truth and concern about that angle.
Yeah. To that point, though, I agree with everything that everyone said. I think my other takeaway was, like, literally to expand on that part, is I feel the article did kind of focus on that from like a headline perspective. It was pretty sensationalized, both from the spending and like the culture standpoint. But my takeaway from reading it was like there's not a whole lot of detail in terms of like the culture stuff specifically, which is like that would have made it a lot more like, I don't know, hit a little differently than just kind of like focus, like say making a general statement, but then all like the details and like the facts of the article were about like the spending and stuff. And of course, there's a conversation there, but I'm very much at the standpoint too. Like if it's within reason and it's within the structure of like a company budget and the finances of that, right? Like I don't have any issue with him sitting courtside or having like big meetings with celebrities and stuff. That is what you should be doing at that stage of growth. And when you're like, when people, like they said, the article said like he could get a meeting with anyone. Like, that's a pretty powerful thing. And like, why would you not want your CEO to go meet with people who are influential in this space or can make shit happen? Or maybe it's like, NFL, right? Like, who knows? Like, a variety of reasons. There's definitely a line to it. And it's like, if you're being a little bit just frivolous, that's where I think things start to go a little bit awry. But I can't fault the guy for saying courtside of the NBA. Fine. I mean, that's what you want to see, literally.
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we all, have some experience with DFS and kind of what happened there. I mean, I was front and center hanging out with all the CEOs when DFS was exploding. And I remember in 2015, the private jets, the suites. In Miami, it was just insane how much DraftKings was spending. And it's easy to kind of go down that path, especially when you've had this meteoric growth. Like, you're like, okay, we're thinking long-term about the business. We're trying to reinvest capital to, basically amplify, the enterprise value. And it's easy to justify a lot of these different things. And you start doing one thing, you start having more success. Like it's easy to think that what your actions are, helping the growth. So I have zero issue with like the broad kind of behavior that was outlined in that article. But of course, like looking back, it's like, okay, some of this stuff might've been frivolous. And, you look back at like DraftKings and some of the things they did, like definitely frivolous. And the other thing that it does, that I do think is a negative to be cognizant of, in the next big bull market, like it creates a target on your back too. So that's just something to be thoughtful about. Hopefully when we have the next bull run.
And I think to me, like I didn't need an article to tell me about like the dysfunction within Top Shot, because you can go like up the ladder. Everyone has experiences with just communication alone, communication coming in all these spots at different times. Then you can go up even a higher level and be like, kind of like the Economist and how their roadmap and how that was constantly changing. And there wasn't a streamlined element there. And then you can go up even higher to like Roham, and you can see these faults at every single step of the way. And at some point, Roham is responsible for that, hiring the people who do the roadmap and the economy of Top Shot, those guys hiring the people who do the comms and the distribution of all that. Like it's been dysfunctional across the board. And at some point it goes all the way up to the top, and it's like, you got to figure this shit out.
Do you want to listen to the spaces? I missed it because we were, tied up on at Denver.
I saw the recap, and it looks like he spent the first 15 minutes like talking about the article, and then just denying and kind of explaining for stuff. I think he even said like he spent his own personal money on a lot of that stuff, which you actually that could be truthful or not truthful. It's actually very easy to find out. You just find out from an accountant. And then the other 45 was the same shit. We're doing this. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do this. It didn't make me more bullish on Top Shot. It unfortunately confirmed my biggest worry about Top Shot, which is, the Crypto Kitties was a very similar kind of situation to this, where you go crazy and then you can't manage it properly. I don't know if that's just on Roham, if it's like the people, they just happen to have two teams that didn't work out perfectly. With all that being said, I think that can this product live more in like, can it still live on? Like, is it done just because of one bad market? This almost makes me feel like this is the absolute worst scenario, right? The CEO's in question. It's the worst market in the world. And they fought off all that competition. Like Andy could still get $23,000. Now it's not like the greatest, return on that moment, but like, I don't know. I guess because I've seen it in sports cards, like the sports card industry, just because the prices have literally dropped by 90%. Like people are still building, companies are still afloat. They're still having card shows, once a month all over the country. They still have their conferences. So I don't think they're now. My other big worry would be could the NBA change up their partnership right now?
That's my concern.
That could absolutely be part of the next step. But I don't know, because by the time that it feels like they could pivot off Top Shot, it's like they'll have 5-6 years of like this roadmap that they've been building. It just feels like they've almost fucked up as much as they possibly could. And they're not whatever that MLB company was yet, right? Maybe they will be, but they're still swimming. So we'll see. But it doesn't feel, it can't be good right now.
Was there ever detail publicly on their NBA contract? Andy, you might know that more than anything else.
Originally they said they had like 8 years, but
as we know, contracts are very negotiable from the sports
contracts. Contracts can change.
Yeah. I think that's really my biggest concern or the unknown is basically if it doesn't get better within the next let's say year, and the general sentiment from people that the NBA sees is this product is bad, I don't like it. What does it take for the NBA to be not interested in whatever negative press we were getting from this?
But are they getting negative press? That's the thing. Initially NFTs are scams, but now they seem to be all right, this is the digital collectible platform. Plus they've got UFC, they've got NFL. It feels like they actually have not a moat for Dapper's side of the business. I guess they could fail. But it feels like it would be tough for the NBA to pull if that happens, obviously, then it's a disaster. What do you think the company's worth today if they were going to go raise a round?
We asked this last week.
Oh, really? What did you say?
With Jack. What do you think? What do you think Andy said? No.
What do I think Dapper's worth today? What was the agreed upon? They started at 7 billion or something, that was the most recent. I also think it probably depends how much capital they would try to raise. I would say I would put him at 500 million. I think the right number is probably 1.5. They could probably still get some people given the relations they have, but true value, not in that fucking market that everyone was raising in 6 months to a year ago.
Nice.
Yeah, $500 million.
What do you think, Jennings? What's your valuation? You're going in, auditing them, deciding if you want to invest.
What number would I invest at, or what number do I think that the market rate would be?
Both.
Oh man. Market rate. Yeah, somewhere in the $1 billion range. After all my experience the last couple of years, I have just completely pivoted away from some of the growth stuff that I've invested in the past. So it'd be a much lower number for me. Also, just have a lot of my personal net worth and private investments, which has drawbacks. So yeah, it would be tough. I also have a small investment in Dapper already, so full disclosure there. But it would be significantly lower. And broadly, I mean, at some point, we can talk about it in the club. But I'm just super bullish on the cash flow positive businesses and kind of just building out a portfolio of smaller businesses that way. I still think there's opportunity and growth, and it's probably discounted more now. So there's better opportunities at this exact moment in time than we've seen, especially over the last couple of years. But that's been kind of my bread and butter up until 21 and 22, where I kind of got caught up in the mania, and I definitely want to stick to what I know going forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that has had me readjust my answer to this question is I heard through some conversations kind of what the secondary private trading value of Opensea is right now. And after hearing that, I think the Dappers would be a lot lower than we talked about last week.
Really?
The private.
What'd you say last week? What'd you say last week?
I said I still thought they would hit $1 billion in valuation.
A B was kind of like our threshold.
Yeah, and now I don't.
You think so? You think Opensea would be a better bet long term than Dapper?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes.
Huh.
Well, think about the total addressable market. Opensea still is in the pole position for all NFT marketplace transactions.
They are, but they're just a marketplace, right? So there's what do they do that's proprietary? They had to cut their fees because some better market, right, offered no fees. Dapper at least has, right, NFL, NBA, UFC partnerships. I agree with you, addressable market. But yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation.
What
OpenSea just got disrupted in a big way, and I shouldn't talk too much about Opensea just because I'm privy to some of the stuff through one confirmation fund. But yeah, the secondary market has absolutely gotten. Yeah, I mean, any growth, any tech, NFT, crypto. If you're not in AI, basically right now, the multiples have come way down, and most things are trading on EBITDA, and yeah, that's tough for a lot of these things.
That's
we
why
should have an
Ryan
AI
Carson.
conversation at some point.
Ryan Carson's the smart guy. He's now on to AI after leaving his second venture fund.
He's really smart for going over to LinkedIn. What I didn't appreciate is how bullish the Web3 space is on LinkedIn. I have never heard more people say the word LinkedIn in the last like 6 years of my life than I did at ETHDenver. Shit was incredible. Once people were like over the Telegram mania and people had like 1,000 connections on Telegram, I was like, well, let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm like, LinkedIn? I was like, I only fucking logged into LinkedIn like a month ago.
Jack, are you still doing your what did you do? 100 posts on LinkedIn? Did you?
No, it was I'm in the creator program. So yeah, they had us doing like 30 or 28 days of February. LinkedIn's a very popular platform. I actually like, if anyone is trying to be a creator of some sort in the business space, I actually highly recommend going over there. If you hate the thread guys on Twitter, just delete LinkedIn from your phone. That is literally all the fucking.
That's where thread guys go to die. Yeah.
Jay's getting his reps up to go be a LinkedIn
now,
big time.
Now they got carousels over there, so you can image and create like a 10-part thread, but you go from left to right. Yeah, I post. It's a good platform, but it's a tough scroll, and the DMs are even worse than. I mean, the bots are worse over there than they are on Twitter.
Wow, figure it out, Elon. Who runs LinkedIn over here? I posted on Twitter. I did get an email today to attend a webinar about the importance of thought leadership in economic uncertainty. So I don't know, maybe I'll be getting in the LinkedIn streets here.
No financial advice though.
Man, if that's not like the buzziest webinar title I've ever heard, they might as well toss in AI and Web3 while they're at it there. Let's see here. Anything else? I definitely want to hop in some Underdog playoff best ball drafts. I know, Pete, we haven't seen you in a long time. Anything else on your radar? Are you excited about Reignmakers for PGA? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about dad life too. So and then we can jump to Underdog. But yeah, the Reignmaker stuff's really cool. I think we had a space on it today. I think football, what Reignmakers evolved into is basically a more hardcore version of DFS. Still interesting with the real money prizes. But the nice thing about golf that I think will make this game more successful is that it's easier for the casual person. And if you kind of just look at the landscape of DFS in general and the volume that's happened in the last 3 to 4 years, basically everything's relatively flat. NBA's down a little bit. NFL continues to grow at kind of a steady clip. The one sport that has just continued to grow and exploded is golf. And I think that's just kind of across the board. Golf is getting more and more compelling. But specifically for DFS and for betting, it's really popular because there's a lot of short-term variance and it's just very easy to make teams. And that's what gives me a little bit of optimism for, not a little bit, but real optimism for the Reignmakers game, is that it's just super simple to build teams. So I'm hopeful that it can work. And it just needs to be more casual than, I think the dream is ripping packs and having a chance to win lottery type payouts. And I think that's closer with DK Reignmakers than the football version. So we'll see what happens, but definitely bullish on just betting on golf, speculating on golf through fantasy, and now Reignmakers.
Have you seen the Netflix show?
Yeah. Ashley and I watched the whole thing. Ashley actually really enjoyed it, which is great. More love.
No joke. No joke. I played 4 seconds of it, and my fiance said turn it off. I don't even think like anything had happened. So I got to watch it on my own time.
Was that the first time you said fiance out loud? You were really trying that on for
Yeah, I have called her my girlfriend like 6 times.
I call my girlfriend still all the time.
Yeah, calling someone your fiance is just like, it feels like you're almost bragging or like doing too much. It's like,
you're trying too hard. I know it is.
Yeah, it's like,
I have a fiance.
Right. Literally, that is what it sounds like to me.
As fuck,
it's gross. But they announced season 2 today. Not the date, but Netflix announced they're already doing this second season of it. So good for the growth.
I actually started watching Drive to Survive on the flight to Denver, and I've like low-key been like, I didn't realize there's 5 seasons of it, but it's also very good. And I tried to watch that before.
Amazing.
I couldn't get into it. The golf one sucked me in quickly. I thought it was fantastic.
No, the F1 stuff takes a minute.
I tried the Ashley's tweet on my fiance Stacy, and she didn't go for it well. We made it through like half of one episode. So didn't get her there, but
it is pretty crazy. Since we launched this show, we've had 2 kids, a third one coming here, and 3 engagements across the 5 of us right here. That's pretty crazy.
That is.
All grown up.
Yeah,
getting old fast.
And we've made no money. Like, think about that.
We're up stuck.
Hopefully that all changes. Hopefully there's a lot of money on the horizon. But Pete, tell us about dad life.
Dude, it's great. April turns 3 months tomorrow. Born December 8th. So yeah, it's one of those weird things where that's not a lot of time, 3 months, but it legitimately feels like she's been with us for a year, just because you've gone through so many hurdles and learning experiences and all of this stuff that it does feel like we've had her forever. I'm looking forward to it being nicer out here in Boston, so I can go on more walks, because that's like one of our surefire activities. Take her out, she'll nap for as long as we want to walk, but the weather's been pretty crummy lately, so that's been hard. But just trying to juggle like the schedule and everything else I'm still working on, and being a good dad. But I truly am loving it.
Yeah, 3 months is a great age. You kind of get in a routine. Babies get easier, hopefully sleep better. And then I truly think 6 months is like one of the easiest ages for a baby, maybe till they're like 4. Because 6 months they develop this routine, they have some personality, but they're still a potted plant. And that is it's a game changer once the babies start moving around. So you got a good stretch here. 3 to 6 months is fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm like, as someone who has one now, and I truly can't even fathom the people who have twins or the second one or having a toddler. So go with God, Pete, coming up here.
Go with a lot of help. We are bringing in the troops to help raise these 2 kids. So
Pete, would you say you're going to have to scale down this summer from playing golf 5 days a week to maybe like 4?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
He can scale up. He can scale up if he brings in the help. What do you mean?
I'm doing everything I can. I'm going to go from 5 days of golf a week to 4 days of golf a week. That'll be my big sacrifice this summer.
My personal request for Ollie's birth is that if we're not in the club live again and you can't tap in on a video stream, that we at least get a classic Jennings late night Twitter spaces out of it. So if you're, that's my request.
Yeah, I think it's going to take another bull market for Pete to tap in from the delivery.
Yeah, see, if I can make some money, I'll definitely do something. In the, Ashley's behind that. She's not. But if it's bear markets, it's a lot tougher. I'll
all right, Pete. What price of either Bitcoin or ETH do we need by the time that Ashley
floor
does
seats
the delivery for you to tap in for a live appearance? Yeah. You need like 3K ETH.
Yeah, the woodpecking. I mean, those are good conversations. I'd love to start talking about that.
What our Roham shit, yeah.
Wait, Suns, our Nuggets Knicks is back in play.
Nuggets Knicks is somewhat
live. It's very live.
Somewhat live. It's very.
I know
live
the Nuggets are unlikely. Wait.
No, the Knicks are terrible. Terrible.
No, you don't believe
terrible.
I
actually think they're probably the most overrated team in the NBA.
Why?
I think a lot of their players are going to struggle more in the playoffs, and I think the elite teams in the East are going to, be a real problem. I know you just had that nice one. I actually watched the entire double OT win that you guys had over the Celtics.
I mean, Emmanuel quickly. Like, come on. How long have I been fucking throwing Dapper bucks at that guy?
Do you have a 6-man ticket for him?
No, I don't. But a bunch of my friends, no joke.
ETR was all over him like a week and a half ago.
Bro, I was away, like All-Star, and then into vacation. The entire time, I didn't have access to the FanDuel stuff, and fucking all my friends have 240-1 tickets, 20 to win $5,000 on him 6th man of the year. And all I have is my Knicks to win the title at 200-1. So.
You just need Jennings.
I like the guard
to sit for a little bit, and you got a chance with Quickly.
Yeah. I like Quickly. I think the Hart signing was awesome, and I love Brunson. Outside of that, I'm not that bullish on the Knicks. But you guys are set up super well long term to get more players. RJ Barrett, like you said, I guess he's the most available player of that draft.
Unfortunately available.
And I'm rooting for Julius Randle. I just think what we saw in the playoffs last year, I don't think he'll be that bad, but I think that his game doesn't translate as well in the playoffs. But that's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
And you're going to run those three teams are tough. I mean, Boston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. I mean, those are
even Cleveland's a bad matchup for us too. They're going to be a lead in the paint, but I do think it's a little different than 2020, where they didn't have a point guard, and I think that'll make Randall better in the playoffs. Brunson will obviously. He was fantastic last year. That's my only knock against people who are like it's going to be the same thing over and over again. It's like you got Brunson, but we'll see. And they're playing.
2 years ago was the year that Randall struggled obviously to make the last year, but Brunson's a huge upgrade. I think his game translates super well. I love his game.
I think Hart is really unlucky. Hart's just major for them in that regard. Like the offense obviously flows through Randall, and like him and Brunson have all the usage, but it just changes things where it's not on him to both create and force a shot, and now he can pick and choose his shots a lot more. And you've just seen Randall be just a different guy.
Oh, you hate to see Booker go there.
To load up on.
Tough.
We have hopped into an underdog.
Chris Paul.
Gotta get
Chris Paul slips a lot.
We can wait.
I would take Ayton. You need a big.
Take Morant. Take Morant.
Take Brown.
Position scarcity.
Yeah, take Brown. Get Boston.
Celtics, Phoenix.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to try to get Ayton coming back though, because like Clay was saying, there's a lot of positional scarcity for bigs in these drafts. So the way that the scoring works is it's 5 starters. You have 1 of each position and then 2 flex, and there just aren't very many bigs. So basically, the only draftable big on Phoenix is Ayton. With Boston, there are 2 draftable bigs in Robert Williams and Al Horford. A lot of teams. So a team that I like to pair with Phoenix is Miami, because you can get Bam, and that always feels nice as a team in the East. But it can be tough, and so it is something to be cognizant of.
I did put 2 futures tickets on the Suns and the Bucks meeting in the finals, and I took each team outright to win because it was a better bet than taking them just to meet in the finals. That makes sense. Get on the same.
I love that.
The same payout. Yeah, I did. I liked it too. I hit it right after the last time they played, and KD and Giannis were both out, and everyone on NBA Twitter was like, "Man, imagine we get 5 games of this." And I was like, "Yeah, sign me up for that shit. I would love to be pulling for that the rest of the season." So,
do you know what someone on Phoenix is going to get fucking hurt? I think the West stinks. I think the Nuggets are live, but I think they stink too. If you gave. What?
The West stinks?
Yeah, I think the West is awful.
Because the Lakers are bad? Come on, bro.
No, because the East is stronger than the West, though, for sure.
Because the Nuggets are very good, but I would take the East. I would take anyone who comes out of the East over the Nuggets. I think the Warriors are not going to be where they could get to. It feels a lot like Brooklyn last year.
The Warriors also cannot win an away game. They're what? 7-20 something on the road.
The Grizzlies are obviously drawing dead right now. I think the Suns are the best team in the West if they're healthy, but who knows? I think the only team that can win the title from the West is
the Phoenix stack, and you just take Chris Paul.
Take Chris Paul.
And so you can these Boston guys, their ADPs are too high. They're going to slip. The biggest one who you want is Robert Williams, in my opinion, to lock in a second big.
And if he's healthy,
otherwise
he'll be great. Yeah.
Is it round by round? Is it round by round? Advancement? I would start. I actually, this isn't a bias thing. I feel like the Knicks have, Randall or Brunson have to be 2 of the more valuable people to get you through.
They definitely have been going pretty high. As of right now, the boards are total chaos. No one knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
I've seen players ADP 20 not get drafted. I've seen Desmond Bane not get drafted in these drafts.
Well, now I think people think they're an early out.
Oh, everyone's panicking about Grizzlies because of the Ja stuff.
Yeah.
If Ja gets suspended
And
for 50
Clark.
games, that would change.
That's a
things
bigger
lot.
deal.
Yeah.
Clark's a
Yeah,
big
losing
deal.
Clark sucks.
Achilles.
That's a huge deal. I mean, he's one of
How
the
many
Oh.
rounds are these?
Oh wow!
So
Yeah,
you can get
this-
Horford.
Or Brogdon's right there.
I would, or just take a different team in the East because now you're kind of playing for a team to meet the Suns. So you could take like a Mitchell.
Yeah, you could go
I would
Cleveland.
or Brogdon, or go Maxey with Philly.
Yeah, you can always
That's good
going
equity.
Cleveland
I
here
like
doesn't
Mitchell.
feel bad.
I
You
like
get
Cleveland.
Mitchell.
I like Mitchell too.
And because Cleveland also has two bigs who you feel comfortable drafting.
Jarrett Allen,
which is nice.
Great. Mobley, yeah, you'll be fine.
So it sounds
Cleveland's a
like
fun
I
team.
did draft like the nuts Phoenix team. Like literally my very first draft in this. It was like one of the first drafts in the entire tournament. I got a full Phoenix Sixers stack. The only player I don't have is KD, but I have all of the starters for the Sixers, all of the starters for the Suns. Otherwise,
That's pretty.
it's
incredible.
like a pretty insane team.
That's pretty incredible.
so
not having KD
Andy,
though is going to be tough, Andy. If that's
Yeah.
the finals, actually, if that's the finals, no one else is going to have the full starters.
No one's gonna have it. Yes, like starters like Andy. Well, Andy can beat them on
because
ball.
you had Embiid as your first pick.
Yeah, I went Embiid, Harden, and then all the Phoenix guys slipped. So I got Booker, Ayton, Paul in a row, and then I got Maxey and Harris coming back.
Wow, that's
Brogdon or Horford here?
I would even consider going Garland, but one of those three for sure.
I would go Garland.
I like
You can
Garland's a
get Mobley
starter.
on the way back too.
Yeah, Brogdon's
Yeah.
off the bench. He plays good minutes depending on the situation. Hofford's fine, but he's just not doesn't have a ceiling. He'll get you 10 to 15.
I like loading up on Cleveland here. Cleveland's live.
I think so too. They're a fun team.
They're
Also, I think
live
it'd be
to
a really good
lose
team for
in 5
advancing.
to the Knicks.
I can't wait to bet Cleveland. We'll have a little
Seriously,
side
yeah,
bet.
I'll take
All
you on
right.
that too.
We can gamble some high end top shot moments on the Knicks versus.
I have the number 2 Donovan Mitchell hollow. I've got whatever fucking
baby.
shit you need.
Perfect.
All right, it's a fair point, Chip. That's a fair point. I'm just jaded from like DK DFS with Hofford.
Andy, give me the high level. So as someone who did hundreds of the NFL playoff best ball ones, so the same element of team correlation here, the way you were describing bigs almost sounded similar to the positional scarcity at quarterback. Are there any other parallels or ways you can teach me this game using NFL analogies?
I think that this one, there's like definitely a lot more opportunity, and like I think there's a lot more value in just like drafting, as silly as it sounds, just like drafting the best players, a little bit more so than the NFL, I think, because there's way less variance. Is playing a full 7 games and just like the way that basketball is in general, like I would probably take Horford here.
I would take
personally.
Horford and then Mobley.
Because your guards are really strong, and Brogdon would be your 4th best guard.
Mm-hmm.
And then like if you can get Evan Mobley
Mobley
coming back, you're in a really nice
clutch.
spot.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like I think there's just gonna be way less variance. You're not gonna have the MVS drops however many points he did that gets a bunch of people through kind of thing, and then like literally put up nothing in the championship. Like those kind of lineups just don't exist in basketball outside of injuries. And so I think like to a certain extent, there's people who are drafting like the 6th best player on a team, and I just don't think that's the right strategy, because you can just get exposure to a guy who's going to consistently put up points, and those players are just in a five starting player is just not going to get the points that you need for them to consistently help you out.
Yeah, I would consider going Jarrett Allen
Mobley,
here. Jarrett Allen, or you could go Brock, but you're good at guard, and big is hard. Allen's a great big. He starts. I would put a vote in for that, or I guess from a wing.
Any other thoughts?
I don't know, Andy. What do you think? Do you think Allen, or would you go Brogdon?
I mean, it's definitely reaching for Allen, but I think it's fine.
I would grab Brogdon
How many
or White.
are picks
and then,
there? Yeah, go Brogdon.
and then you can get Allen on the way back.
Oh, I messed you up, Pete. My bad. Oh, you
No,
got it.
I got nimble fingers.
You got it. You got the fingers. I see you.
Yeah. Now you need wings and I would get Allen.
And so like I think an example of thinking about the like only drafting really good players conversation here is there's a different strategy that, and again, like this is pretty pretty much just like my own bro science of thinking about it. But like, I think that Jimmy Butler, it's like Bam Adebayo just got drafted. I think there's like a really good argument to be made that like your last two picks could have or should have been Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. And basically you just now have the two best players on the Heat at, you know, mid to late round picks. And so it's interesting in that sense. I don't really know what the best strategy is, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of different, I'm going to max enter this for sure. And so I'll be doing a bunch of different things, but like there's definitely some where I like going a construction of 2 3s and 2 2s of each conference and just like getting the best players on all of those teams and getting like 2 sets of the best players of finals, like kind of favorites, and then 2 sets of the best players of less likely finals contenders. And I think that those kind of teams will have a good chance to advance to the first round.
So now take Jared Allen.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like, I think another team that's interesting there that you can get is like Minnesota is a team where you can draft Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns in literally the last 2 rounds. And it's like, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't even think they're going to be a play-in team, or it'll be close.
Zion.
And
they could play the Kings
Zion.
too. If the Kings hold on.
Yeah, like they have a real chance to advance past the first round and like make some noise in a second round. I don't think they'll go further than that, but you never know. And like you can literally get their best players in the last 2 rounds. And so that's where I think it is a little bit different than NFL, where like, yeah, you could get some of the Jacksonville guys, but even those guys started to slide up, or like teams like that.
Jacksonville?
Oh, not Jacksonville. Yeah, like the Jags.
Yeah, you're
like
right.
ETN, Chris
comparing
Kirk,
it.
Lawrence,
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like
no one
I would
should throw
take
you
those
off.
guys.
No. I was like, I went down to my phone for a second. I'm like, wait a
We
second.
know.
How are we in Jacksonville all of a sudden?
Yeah, and so I think that's the biggest difference to me is like I feel a lot better taking the 2 best players from the 6th seed in NBA as opposed to in the NFL.
Yeah. Chipsy says the winner last year had 5 Golden State in Boston and then 5 one-offs. So just getting all the studs to help propel you through the various rounds.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's going to be really fun to see the ADPs like balance out too, because right now they're wild.
Yeah.
Yesterday there like literally was
Grant
no ADP,
Williams.
it was just total chaos.
Does Grant Williams make sense for us with another wing or something else I'm missing?
Yeah, I think Williams or Derek
or
White,
Barrett.
like one of those guys.
I'd take Williams or Barrett.
Do not take Barrett. Get him. Unclick that. Unclick that.
Yeah, I would take Williams.
No. I was gonna say I don't know if Grant's gonna be in the playoff rotation. He's losing a lot of minutes recently.
I see.
He's been struggling,
and he also last night
the other night
said
He'll
he
definitely be
was,
in the playoff rotation. He's too good defensively for them, and they don't just don't have enough depth. Who's going to play ahead of him?
Sam Hauser. Are you kidding me? Mike Muscala?
No, Muscala will play some. I mean, Robert Williams helped is a big part of it. But like,
did Anthony Davis not get drafted in that draft?
No, he did. He was like the 3rd round. Yeah.
What? That's weird.
That
guy was a bit of a wild card. His team is crazy.
Is there a max amount of players you would take from one team?
Probably 6. It really depends on the team because like different teams just have different kind of ways that like their points are spread out. So like in the example of Phoenix, I think you have to be like a little bit insane to take anyone other than their 4 best players. There are very few scenarios where one of their non-4 studs are like put up any meaningful points that help you advance. Whereas with Boston, they have like, if you were able to draft everyone who played minutes, like serious minutes for Boston, like you could make a case for why you should draft like 7 players from Boston and basically to say like, I'm going to take the entire team and just hope that they score a shit ton of points. I don't think that's going to be a winning strategy necessarily, but like they have a much deeper roster of players who could score a bunch. I feel like Milwaukee's another team where it's like you basically want like Giannis, Middleton, maybe not even just because like Giannis and Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez.
Bobby Portis, baby, come on, bug guy Bobby, let's go.
I don't know.
He comes alive.
I gotta run. Love you guys.
All right, Jack. Peace out. We're gonna land the plane here as well. See you, Jack. Any other final strategy thoughts? And because this actually seems less intimidating to jump into not knowing a ton of information. Like I feel like I could maybe get caught up to speed relatively quick for these.
Yeah, I think like you definitely want to, in the same way that you do with the NFL, like have some idea of what couple teams you're expecting to be in the finals and like what, some scenario where you're winning. And it's not that hard to pull together basically if you just kind of take what's given to you in the first couple rounds, you probably can like piece together a team that feels pretty good. And yeah, I think what people are underestimating in this comparatively to NFL is just how many points you're going to need to advance from these players, and that you're not going to be able to take some flyers on a second-rate guy from a team and hope that he gives you enough to advance. Like you are going to need serious point production from these guys because of just the way the NFL is just fundamentally different from the NBA.
Gotcha. Pete, Pete, you were blasting off in the NFL streets. I mean, when you were out here,
maxed everything out, just waxed, another.
Well, Pete, do you think maybe auto drafting big mitten teams isn't the best possible strategy?
I auto drafted a couple picks, but my ROI was incredible.
I thought you just said you got waxed.
No, I waxed. Buddy.
Yeah, do you have like a crazy? How many teams did you have in the finals? You had a pretty insane advancement.
In the big mitten, I think I had 4 or 6. I had the most in I think the 3 main playoff contests.
Yeah,
I unfortunately
you crushed it.
The winning team.
Yeah. What was your highest finish?
I can go back and look. I know we returned over 100% in playoff drafts overall.
Damn.
Yeah, and I did without winning. I just had I had really high advance rates. The playoff NFL best ball is like literally my favorite gambling game out there.
It was really fun.
Yeah. That's why I'm so excited for the NBA one. I think there's a lot of parallels to some of the draft strategy elements. Like, for example, just knowing that the bigs are like the most, scarce position, essentially, like that helps you out a shit ton. And then if you just throw together some game theory from like stacking elements, but then also just knowing the nuance of, yes, I think I totally agree with Andy, like studs matter so much more in NBA because of like, you can't bank on that 80-yard touchdown catch to the 4th string wide receiver counting for enough points to really matter versus guys who are drafted rounds and rounds ahead of time. Like you don't have that in the NBA. You have to rely on injury variance essentially for like a 6-man player or somebody off the bench to come off and really perform well.
For the NFL, I got, I'm not trying to be arrogant and brag. I got smashed in tournaments this year in GPPs and certainly need to get better at a lot of things. But for best ball, like there's a huge edge, like massive. And my highest owned player for the playoffs was Kenneth Gainwell. Obviously that worked out, but you can take a lot of players like that in football and kind of bank on some injuries. And obviously he was falling super late. Whereas in NBA, I really agree with that Andy said. I'm excited to do these. I think it's really important to get really good players, but also still have like a construction that makes sense for the finals.
Mm-hmm.
My small ball team's still live. We advanced, so we're in the semis now.
Oh, let's go! Nice.
Hope so. I'm just we're pulling hard for. So Jennings, you like this? My strategy for this draft that I did, I only did a few full season NBA best ball lineups. I did a bully big draft, so I just took Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis. I stopped. I didn't take another big on this team. And the strategies from the ETR guys were talking about preseason. So I'll give them some flowers on that. But I was like, fuck it. Like, don't go for 3 just because it feels comfortable in the late rounds. Like, stick with 2. You got 2 studs. If AD, survives this season, like you might have a chance here. So fingers crossed. We're pulling for a lot of Joel and AD points this week. Although I can't quite figure out like when the advance happens because like when you Google like what week the season it is for the NBA, it says like week 21 is from the 7th through the 12th, but it seems we just advanced this semis and Underdog, so I got to figure out like where we're supposed to bank our time range on for advancing and stuff. But yeah, we'll see. We're getting a little sweaty though.
All right,
love it.
You can get to the bottom of it, Clay, so you can sweat properly. Jennings, it was great getting you back into the fold for a show. Even our boy MBL in the thread said he might come out from
he's teasing us
from his hole for a show. So let let NBL know if you would like to see him on the show. Andy, Clay, a pleasure as always. We are aiming to be here every Tuesday late afternoon at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. I've definitely been digging this new time. Appreciate you all. Have a great week. We'll catch you in the Discord, on Twitter, all that good stuff. Peace.